5 out basketball, 5 segments, 5 takes. This is the podcast for NBA conversations. This is 5 out basketball, and it starts in 3, 2, 1.
And what is up, everybody? I am Joey The Master LeMaster, and as you can see, I am not joined by Everton today. Last week, Everton did his own show while I was in St. Louis, and Everton this week is in Jamaica. Jamaica. Advice for anybody listening: if you like going band for band, do not do it with Everton. Biggest mistake I ever made. He's Moneybag Everton, and he's balling. I love it. I wish I went to Jamaica one time when I was younger, and I'm telling you, the jerk chicken there is one of a kind. I've been wanting it. So, like, I've tried having the American jerk chicken. It's not the same, man. The things I do go back to Jamaica. So jealous of Everton, but last week he carried. This week it's gonna be me. Next week for the 10th episode, we will be back together. So you'll have your dynamic duo you like seeing every week. But as we said, just me this week, and we got 5 segments, and I'm excited because this month of March is the best month of basketball. You're heading into the NBA playoffs, and it's March Madness season. Today is Sunday, so today will be the selection show, so we know the whole bracket. And before that comes out, normally I like doing these mock drafts with Everton, but we need to do a mock draft before March Madness begins because players' stocks are either going to rise or tank. So, we want to get one more out before we get into all that. What's different today is I'm doing the whole first round. I've got 30 picks for you guys. The lottery, I'm going to go more in depth for, but the last 15, I'm speed running it. So if you hear a player then you don't get enough about it, talk about him more in the future. But 30 picks is going to take a second. So, I can't spend all these time breaking down all 30 picks. But let's get into it. This draft order I have from 3 days ago. So if a team flip-flopped, cry about it. It's a mock draft that's like 3-4 months away from the actual draft. So let's get into it. With the first pick in the NBA draft, I have the Washington Wizards selecting Rob Dillingham. If you guys have not been listening to this podcast, you should know that me and Everton are the biggest Rob Dillingham enjoyers, and it's completely understandable. But the question you may have is, how is Rob going to fit next to Jordan Poole? Let me keep it real for you guys. The Wizards are not building around Jordan Poole. And if that is their plan, they got to draft a guy that fit next to Jordan Poole, fire the whole staff because that's a terrible idea. Jordan Poole's probably going to be out of the league in a couple seasons. So we're not drafting for fit. We are drafting the best player available, and that's Rob Dillingham. And do not let the height concern you. This guy has the deepest bag in the draft. He is so shifty. He's so quick. He can score from all levels of the floor. Even at his size, he can still get in the paint. He's got a mid-range shot, and his 3-point is disgusting. And not only that, he's an elite playmaker. People love looking at the Rob Dillingham highlights and see how he can score. That guy can pass the rock. That's a true point guard that you can build your team around. And for the Wizards, it's best player available. And it's in this draft, it's Rob Dillingham. I know everyone likes to say this NBA draft is weaker compared to other drafts. Yeah, the star power is not there, but there are guys in this draft, and Rob Dillingham, I think, has the deepest bag and the best potential to be the number one guy in this draft. And that's what the Wizards need. They need a crafty guy that their fan base can get behind. 100% Rob Dillingham. I love Dillingham. I can't wait to see what he does in March. This Kentucky team is so exciting. But now we go to the Pistons. In the Pistons, I believe we had this guy being taken for them in the last draft, but that's going to be Zachary Reese-Shea. Not messing it up this time. Zachary Reese-Shea. There's a little bit of confusion on his height. Some people say he's 6'8". Some people say he's 6'10". Either way, it's pretty big for a small forward, and I think he's the dream fit for the Pistons. I love this pick so much because he's got a 3-point shot, but he's not like an on-ball guy. He's like off-ball, so he's going to stand there. You're going to give it to him, and he's going to get it up. And he's also a solid defender, and yeah, just great scoring off the ball, which I just think benefits the whole team, benefits Cade, it benefits Ivy. And you pair him next to Asar Thompson, and the Pistons have arguably the best young front court in the NBA, which I know is so crazy to say about the Pistons, but Asar Thompson's a dog, and Zachary Reese-Shea is just the perfect fit to go along with that. And if you give me a starting five of Cunningham, Ivory, Reese-Shea, Thompson, and Duren, the Pistons are an argument to be a playoff team next year, which is what a crazy jump that would be from being arguably the worst second worst team behind the Wizards now, but being the worst team in the NBA to go on the play-in playoffs next season, that's incredible. I think the Pistons team has a ton of potential. Just comes down to Monty Williams. So now we go to San Antonio, and for the third draft in a row, the pick is Nikola Topic. There's not a better fit unless they make a trade later, which is something I will be talking about later. Not going to preview the segment, but we're debuting something this week. Very excited. Anyways, Nikola Topic is just the. I know for the Wizards, you like had to do best player available, and yeah, the Spurs aren't good, but Nikola Topic is 100% the best fit next to Victor Wembanyama. We've been saying this for weeks, even months now. A tall guard who's the best pass in the draft by a mile. That should be all I need to tell you. Yeah, it's a little concerning. He's missed 2 months with a knee injury, but it wasn't like a major tear. He's gonna be fine. And yeah, the tall guards is what the NBA is leaning towards now. And if he can also be a solid defender and give Victor Wembanyama more opportunities, it's what the Spurs have been dying for this season. It's why they've lost so many games. So if you can get that guy on a rookie deal, the Spurs can just build some disgusting team the next 5 years, and that's something that should make San Antonio's fans' mouth water. So now we're going to Charlotte for the Hornets, and this has to be a forward. I was debating for the long time between two guys, but the one I ended up going with was Cody Williams. The other guy up there was Ron Holland. It's a big coin toss at the moment, but I've just been more impressed by Cody Williams this season. I've watched a couple of Colorado games, and he's just an incredible defender. And he doesn't score a lot of points, but he's a very efficient scorer. He plays just like his brother Jalen Williams, and we know how good J Dub is, and like the Hornets cannot say no to a J Dub. And if you can get a guy who can still get you consistent buckets and is freakishly athletic and is a great defender, I think this benefits the Hornets so much. That's like the perfect player you can plug next to Brandon Miller. And it's just, I'd be very excited for this pick as a Hornets fan because you get Jalen Williams had, I think, zero expectations heading into the NBA, at least for me, because I did not watch any Santa Clara games. And if you can get a player like that in the Hornets, just gonna make you guys so much better, so much better. I think this is the guy. And now we're going to the Trailblazers, who are also going to go for a forward, but I did not go Ron Holland. I went Matas Buzelis. Buzelis. I think Buzelis is a little bit better of a shooter than Ron Holland is. And when you have Shaedon Sharpe and Ron Holland are great players, but I don't think they're going to click at all. I think that'd be a bad fit. So you get Buzelis, who's, I want to say he's 6'10". Like the guy's also tall and he's a good shot blocker. So if you can get a guy that can shoot the ball and not even just be a good perimeter defender, but a good paint defender as well. I think the Trailblazers need that, dominate. And he's had a good couple of games, but he hasn't been all that all season. If you can get that extra help in the paint, it's going to be great for the Blazers. It's going to make their life a lot easier because this team's been a crap show and there's not really much of a scheme. But if you can get a plug in a player like that that can fill in for those holes when there's no scheme on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be a big benefit. So I think this has to be the Trailblazers guy. Now we're gonna go to the Grizzlies. I think it's gonna be my first kind of a high pick. This is still a first round talent. Will probably be in the later end of the lottery. But let me explain myself because I have the Grizzlies taking Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. Boo, Kyle Filipowski's annoying. He's that annoying white guy on Duke nobody likes. But let's just get into it. Originally, this had to be a small forward for the longest time. Like a month ago, this is probably the Ron Holland pick. But Gigi Jackson has been hooping for the Grizzlies. And I think he is the reason the Grizzlies don't need a small forward anymore. They can sign like a veteran in free agency, but they don't need to draft one. And Jaren Jackson, he's not a bad player. So I hate to get on him like this, but this is not the Jaren Jackson we've seen last year. I know they have less to play for, but he's not getting blocks. And I think he's not getting as frequent blocks is because he doesn't have the Steven Adams guy that can, be that legit perimeter, like not perimeter, excuse me, the paint defender where he can lock down and Jaren Jackson sloops out of nowhere and gets that block. Kyle Filipowski is going to be that guy that could stand in the paint and get that defense. And Kyle Filipowski is a stretch big, which is going to give Jaren Jackson Jr. more opportunities to score in the paint. Some teams need to draft best player available, but the Grizzlies, when they get Ja Morant back, are automatically be a playoff, even arguably a championship contender. So you got to go for best fit. And if you compare Jaren Jackson Jr. with Kyle Filipowski, the Grizzlies are going to skyrocket. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to evolve as a player, and Filipowski is great. I know he's annoying, but we forget how annoying Grayson Allen is now because he's hooping. So if you can hoop, it really doesn't matter how annoying you are. And I think this would be a great fit for the Grizzlies. I know if you look at Kyle Filipowski, it's like you do not belong in Memphis, but trust me, Kyle Filipowski will be that guy. Ignore my Hooters cup. My parents They like to make fun of me because I like to go to Hooters. And like, are the girls that are attractive? Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie to you, but their wings are bomb. I swear on everything. I don't go just for the waitresses. I'm not that guy. Please, please trust me. Anyways, we're back to San Antonio, and I think they're gonna go another guard here. Not a point guard. He can't play some point guard minutes off the bench. This is Reed Shepherd. The Reed Shepherd story has been incredible this year because this was supposed to be a guy who's gonna be at Kentucky all 4 years, following his dad's footstep and be like kind of a cult guy. His draft value has skyrocketed, and now he's already gonna be a lottery pick. And he has been the best 3-and-D player this season. It was Jacoby Walter for the longest time, which is someone I'm going to talk about later. But Reed Shepherd, he's fantastic at defending the perimeter. He gets steals all day. He gets you clutch buckets when you need it. He can shoot the three. He's a great playmaker. And again, if you get Nikola Topic and Reed Shepherd next to Victor Wembanyama, that team's gonna be awesome. Like, I love seeing a potential team of Topic, Shepherd, Vassell, hopefully not Sohan, and then Wembanyama. I think it's an awesome starting lineup because they're all young guys that just keep developing and building a core around until you get that legit star to pair with Wembanyama. I think this would be a great step for the Spurs. And I think Shepard helps the game of Vassell because Vassell can get you a bucket, but he's not the greatest defender in the world. You get Reed Shepard there, and it's gonna make Vassell's life easier and Topic's life easier. There's another team. I know the West is competitive, so it's not as easy as it is to say for the Pistons. But this roster makes the Spurs a play-in contender, and I would love to see that because Victor Wembanyama needs to get in the playoffs ASAP so people can realize how good of a player he already is. Like, I'm talking top 15, top 20. Victor Wembanyama is already that quality, but the Spurs can't win games because that roster sucks. I think after this draft and people start seeing how good this team can be, Victor Wembanyama will get his flowers. And now number 8 for the Rockets, and this is going to be kind of the first faller of the draft in my eyes, but that's gonna be Alexander Sarr. I think he'd be a great backup to Sengun because he's the complete opposite of Sengun, where he's like a better defender and he can still kind of hit the three. But in all honesty, this is going to be. I'm trying to think of a title for this because I know we have the Joey stamp of approval, which I gave for Rob and Stefan Castle. But I think Alexander Sarr is going to be my first stamp of denial. I'm not moved. And this reminds me a lot of the Porzingis draft where no one liked Porzingis. Like, he can't be that guy. And then Porzingis hooped for New York right away. And the Suns like, I want my Porzingis. So they drafted Dragon Bender the next year, and Bender absolutely crapped the bed. This is Alexander Sarr 100%. I watched the tape. He's not an incredible shooter. He's not an incredible defender like he's hyped up to be. He's just a tall Frenchman. And after seeing what Victor Wembanyama did, people were like, oh my God, I need my Victor Wembanyama. Alexander Sarr is nowhere near Victor Wembanyama. It's not even funny. I think he needs more time. He has potential. Like, I'm not saying he's trash and can't ever be anything good, but he needs more time to develop. He's not going to have that Victor Wembanyama impact right off the bat. And the Rockets, they're a team that can give him that time to develop. Like, they got a lot of young guys, but this is a team that's ready to compete. And not Sengun, excuse me. Alexander Sarr, you can give some time off of the bench to develop, and I just think that'd be great for the Rockets. This is probably a dream scenario. If he goes to a team like the Wizards with the first pick, he's gonna get exposed day one. I could say that confidently. He's not an NBA starter yet. He needs his time to develop. And now we go to the Jazz, and this is going to be the Ron Hollins pick. He fell a little bit, but this draft, like, again, with it not being a star heavy, a lot of teams are going to be going best fit. And this is the best fit for Ron Holland because you pair this defensive freak next to Lauri Markkanen, and the Jazz have their forwards set. Lauri Markkanen is a fantastic scorer. You can argue he's the most underrated player in the NBA. He is that freaking talented. Not the greatest defender, though, especially on the perimeter. So if you give him Ron Holland, I think the Jazz could take a big step, and Lauri Markkanen could take an even bigger step because Ron Holland, he's still a freak athlete. Like, he's not just a defender. He's going to get you buckets. He likes to dunk. The shot needs to be developed a little bit more, but again, none of these players are going to be a star right off the. Well, I think Rob Dillingham can, and arguably Zachary Risachet, but no one's going to be like a big star off the bat. But Ron Holland is the best scheme fit for the Jazz, and he was like heading into the season, he was like considered a top 3 pick right off the bat. So the potential is clearly there. And I think Utah, with what they're building, would help Ron Holland tremendously. I would love that pick. And now we're going to go to the Hawks at 10, and they're going to take Dalton Connect out of Tennessee. Dalton Connect is old. There's no denying. He's like 23 or 24. It's like, oh, we don't really see these guys go early in the draft. Well, the Hawks are a team that like to compete. They're not a team that's going to want to commit to a full rebuild, even though I'm going to do that later. And if they're a team that's going to want to win off the bat, Dalton Connect, you can argue, is going to be the best scorer out of this draft right off the bat. Maybe not come 5, 10 years from now, but right now, Dalton Connect is one of the most NBA ready players. He has dropped so many 30 and 40 bombs at Tennessee this season. The guy can score from anywhere on the court. And, you compare that next to DeJounte Murray. I think that's a great fit because, he's an off-ball scorer as well. So he doesn't need the ball in his hands all the time. With them having that issue with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, it's just not going to work. And Jalen Johnson is a defensive freak. So you get this offensive freak and this defensive freak. It's a great combination, and the Hawks would be ready to get back to their competing standards. And now we're going to go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're going to take another Joey stamp of approval. I'm handing it out here. I've watched 6 Baylor games, and we're going to talk about Baylor in a couple more picks. But the player I am most impressed by on this roster is Yves Messi. He is like a 7-foot center who's 235, all muscle. You give him an alley oop, it's getting dunked. And if you take a half-ass shot in the paint, he's swatting that. And that's exactly what I think the Thunder need. I know they like to stretch the floor, but you do still need a traditional big off the bench who can do that dirty work. And respectfully, it's not Bismack Biyombo. I'm sorry if you're a Bismack Biyombo enjoyer for some reason. Not the answer at all. Yves Messi is that answer. I've been so impressed watching these Baylor games. And he can low key move for a big guy, like he's not like so unmobile. Like the guy, he can get a Euro step in there. Like I think he's an impressive scorer, and just the potential is there for Yves Messi. And the Thunder, you can make an argument, are the best at developing players right now in the NBA. You give him this raw product who doesn't need to start right off the bat, and the Thunder could potentially have the final answer to becoming a championship team. Yves Messi can just help them take that next step. I know they need a little bit of help trying to get Josh Giddey figured out, and yeah, they need another scorer off that starting lineup that's not Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is a disgrace to basketball, something we will also be talking about later. So not get down too much into that. But with this pick, they get their right guy. And the Bulls are kind of gonna follow that up with pick 12 because these two players were the ones I was struggling to see which one's gonna go first. I think they're both gonna have the same type of career, so it's kind of just pick whoever you want. But I have the Bulls taking Donovan Clingan out of UConn. It's been incredible the past 2 years, 7'2", 280. Literally the same player, but white. That's the only difference in these two players is their race. They play exactly the same type of basketball where Doma lob, they're dunking it, do a terrible shot in the paint, and they're blocking it. And that's really a player the Bulls need because I am so sick of watching Nikola Vucevic play basketball. I'm done. I want the exact opposite type of player on the Bulls. I don't want to watch it anymore. And Donovan Clingan is the exact opposite. He is a threat in the paint to the point where like teams will scheme around not getting in the paint just so they don't have to deal with him. So if the Bulls can get that guy where players won't or teams won't just drive in at them and take easy shots on Vooch, it's gonna help the Bulls become a better team. And Donovan Clingan is another player I love. Not giving the stamp of approval because I can only give one stamp of approval, but he's gonna be fantastic for the Bulls. And I think that's someone Chicago would fall in love with quickly. Now we're going to the Trailblazers, and we're going 3 straight centers, CCC. Because the Trailblazers earlier, they went with, Matthias Buzelis. So they don't really need another forward or a guard because they have so many guards. They need another center. And this is a guy that's kind of skyrocketed up the draft the past couple of weeks. I'm going to be honest, have not watched much Indiana tape, but Kel'el Ware has been getting a lot of hype because he's a 7-foot center who can score on one-on-one opportunities. So he's very dominant Ayton-esque. But when Dominant Ayton was younger, Dominant Ayton, man, I didn't call him DeAndre Ayton. I'm really stuck on the Dominating nickname. That's hilarious. But when DeAndre Ayton was younger, man, like the potential was there. There's a reason he got that payday because he's a big guy who can still play defense, but can also score on those one-on-one opportunities. And that's really what Kel'el Ware is, at least from what I've seen. And plus, the Blazers' big man depth is horrendous. It's so bad. They need to get a center in there. And if you can get a guy like this who is 7 foot and can score on these one-on-one opportunities, I think it helps the Trailblazers a ton. Now 14, we're gonna go to the Pelicans, and the Pelicans could potentially hit the home run shot here with Isaiah Collier. This was the number 1 pick heading into the season, but the first 3 months, that USC team was bad, man. They had so much hype. That team sucked. But Isaiah Collier's been balling out the last month. People haven't really been talking about it. He's kind of shown why he was the number 1 guy for the longest time because he's super duper quick. It's outrageous, and he can finish and create opportunities. I think it's a great guy that the Pelicans can get to potentially. Not I don't want to say replace CJ McCollum right off the bat, but McCollum is getting up there in age. If they can get the right guy, sit behind him for a little bit, Isaiah Collier can show in the future why he was a number 1 pick potential. And I think as a guy in a couple years from now, I would not be surprised if he won most improved player because he's not going to get it right off the bat. Obviously, you need time to give him to develop, but the potential is there. There's a reason why he was the number one pick. He is so quick. And if you can get a guy to score in the paint and create those opportunities, like get a ball creator next to Zion and Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy, and I think this team can take an awesome jump. I think there's a team that might want to draft center though. It's just those top three of like, well, not the top three, but the three in a row of Missy, Klingon, and Khalil Ware were kind of the dream fit, but they're off the board. So you get Isaiah Collier who can sit behind CJ McCollum, and they're gonna take a massive step. Now we're going to the Heat. The Heat, I know this is probably they want Dalton Connect here so bad. If Connect doesn't go early because of his age, I get it. But here's my thinking: is why the draft. One of the things that annoys me about the draft is that they always have to take the younger players. Like, oh, we gotta give him more time to develop. Like you have to take the younger guy. No, you don't. Not every player is going to be in the league for 20 seasons where you gotta give him time to develop. Dalton Connect is like 3 years older than these guys. Like, oh, I need the 20-year over the 17-year. Newsflash, in this NBA, players are not going to be on your team the whole time. So you're not going to have this whole 20-year timeline to work with. Take the best player. Take the best player if you need to. So I'm sick of this age thing. Has nothing to do with the Heat. Just need to vent it off my chest. It's just like, oh, 23 is too old. Okay, Josh Giddey. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio. What's wrong with you? Makes me mad. Anyways, the Heat get one of the highest caliber, not highest caliber, highest ceilings. This is the high risk, high reward player. But Tyler Smith is a 6'11" forward who was hyped for his shooting. His 3-point shots kind of fallen off the past couple of weeks, but he can dunk. And it's just if he's supposed to be a shooter and he can learn behind Kevin Love, the Heat might hit the lottery here. Like I think this would be an awesome pick. The Heat have proven to be tremendous drafters, and I just think they could hit the lottery again here. Now this is gonna be the last pick before I start doing the speed run, just because I'm gonna get a lot of crap for this player going this late. But 16, I have the 76ers going with Jacoby Walter. Jacoby Walter's supposed to be a lock for top 8, and his stats are good. But I've watched 6 Baylor's games. I know it's not the whole season, but I've watched 6 Baylor games, and there's just not been one game where I've walked away as like, oh, Jacoby Walter was the best player on the floor. He's a 3-and-D player, and the three shots don't always fall. And I think he's an energetic defender, but I've never seen him as like, oh, he's locked down. He's that guy. He's just kind of a 3-and-D player. It's just good. I don't think he's great at any of those things. I think he's just good. And so I have him lower in my draft. Jacoby Walter has a stamp of denial. The smoke's coming. I have a lot of Big 12 friends that I went to high school with, and they get heated when I say I'm not a Jacoby Walter fan. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And hopefully he proves me wrong. Like there's the guy's not even the NBA yet. I'm already hating, but it's just I have not been too impressed with, and that's why I have him lower in the draft. This can be the guy's hyped up to be this is a steal for the 76ers, but just off the eye test, because you gotta trust these things. Some people are blind, so it's kind of harder to do the eye test, but I can see with my 2 eyes, even though I need some glasses to help me. But Jacoby Walter, I have not been impressed with. I'm just gonna keep it real. But now this is where we're going to do a little bit of a speed run because I'm not trying to spend an hour and 15 minutes breaking down every 30 picks. The Raptors are going to take Devin Carter, the point guard out of Providence. His numbers are incredible, but yeah, he's scoring nearly 20 points a game, but he's also bringing down 8.6 rebounds per game and has 30 blocks this season. Kind of a do-it-all type of player. And get that point guard next to Scotty Barnes. Now you have a guard and a small forward that just kind of do a little bit of everything, which I just think makes the Raptors so much more fun. Then the Magic, I have taken Johnny Furphy. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the player. It has to be the best shooter here. The Magic still cannot shoot for the life of them, and Johnny Furphy is the best shooter on the board. The Knicks, stamp of approval pick, Stephon Cassell, a freak athlete who can pass and defend. This is probably the steal of a draft. This is the Knicks' dream to get that off the bench. Then the Hawks, I'm not giving them the stamp of approval yet. This is my 2K bias. I did a Charlotte Hornets rebuild, and we're currently on season 3. And Tijon Salon has just been so awesome for the Blaze for my Hornets team. He's averaging like 16 points, 8 rebounds, and like a block and a half and a steal. And I think he has like 3, 4 assists. Just been molded into the dream player. So I love him already, but he's the most raw prospect in the draft. Like I've seen Giannis comparisons, which is nuts. Where because Giannis was skinny off the bat and ended up becoming a star, and Tijon Salon does have that. He's an explosive dunker who can get you a shot when you need it because he can space the floor and it's just That would be awesome for the Hawks as well. But I think T. Salon has such a high ceiling. He just needs to go to the right team because he won't develop if he goes to a wrong team. Well, this is a guy I would not be surprised if he skyrocketed up the draft. The Knicks are taking Colin Murphy-Boyles out of South Carolina. This is literally Julius Randle in college, where it's just some thick seven guy who likes to post up, has a weird shot selection. This is Julius Randle 2.0. Let him develop under Julius Randle. I think that'd be fun for the Knicks. The Suns, Carlton Carrington out of Pittsburgh. He was gonna skyrocket up in during March Madness, but I don't think they're gonna make it, which is unfortunate. So he might not rise up the draft boards, but there's a point guard who can pass in a 6'5" and he can score. This is kind of your dream build for a point guard in today's current NBA. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts rising. The Pelicans, Tristan da Silva. This is the exact opposite of Zion Williamson, where it's a big that can stretch the floor and can't defend in the paint. Yeah, I've watched Colorado games. It's true. This guy is not a paint defender, but he can stretch the floor, and that's kind of what fits today's NBA modern build with a 6'9" forward that can shoot rather than just being some big guy that posts up. The Cavs, my favorite player on Kansas is Kevin McCullough Jr., just a freak defender. And again, this is where it's okay taking one of these older guys because he's very Josh Hart-esque, where he can defend the perimeter. He's still getting you rebounds. He's still not making shots, but creating shot opportunities. And that would be a fantastic build for the Cavs off the bench. They would love that pick. Bucks taking Jared McCain. Jared McCain is just a super quick guard off the bench that can get you a bucket. And the Bucks, just depth isn't the best in the world. So I think getting a score off the bench would be nice for him. The Wizards are taking Bobby Klintman. He's in France, but this is the Patrick Williams pretty much, where he's just good at everything, not really great. And with the Wizards not really being good in everything, why not get a guy that can be good at everything? Just kind of a good fit for where they are right now. The Timberwolves are going to get Terrence Shannon Jr. Not a Terrence Shannon Jr. fan at all, but I can respect the fact that he can get a bucket. Timberwolves have no scoring depth, so I think Terrence Shannon Jr. should be the guy. And then the Jazz, Ulrich, I'm going to butcher. This is probably the first name I'm going to butcher today, but it's going to be Ulrich Kamoche, and it's a center who plays for the Africa Academy. Going to be completely honest, didn't know that was a thing at all. Not at all. Not an NBA had an Africa Academy. That's super cool. But yeah, just a backup center who's 6'11" and can bring down rebounds, block shots. I think that's the exact opposite of Brook Lopez, which is something like Brook Lopez has made Giannis a better player with being able to stretch the floor and let Giannis get in the paint. But sometimes when they're attacking Brook Lopez, you need to have the opposite guy, and that could be Ulrich. And then the Nuggets get Zach Edey. This would probably be the worst thing that ever happened, ever. Zach Edey come off the bench for Jokic if Zach Edey started winning championships and was like developed under Jokic. This is the nightmare situation, but I think it'd be a great pick for the Nuggets. And finally, the Celtics are going to take Ryan Dunn, who's just another lockdown defender. Yeah, let the Celtics get another Matthias Thybulle type player on that team and let them get more lockdown. That'd be horrifying. But that is going to be the third version of the 5-out mock draft. We got all 30 picks this time. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. It's just people like to dog on this year's draft. Like, oh, there's no star. This draft sucks. I think there's so many, like, not all-star caliber players, but there's so many players that are going to make an impact for their teams on this draft. So I can't wait to look at this draft 5 years from now and be like, I told you guys this wasn't the worst draft of all time. This isn't the Anthony Bennett draft. Like, there's still players that are going to, some have all-star potential, but there's so much solid on the board. Like, this isn't a mid-draft.
Thank you so much for tuning into this segment of the 5-Out Podcast. I am Joey The Master LeMaster, and me and Everton are so thankful for your guys' support. If you want to keep supporting us, please check out the full podcast on Spotify and follow our TikTok account. Both of those will be in the bio, and make sure to leave a like and stay smooth.